Hello everybody, Coach Zukowski here. This week we're going to be going over categories of exercise and how to progress them. Going back all the way to week one when we talked about our categories of lifts, right? Relating our exercise to functional movements of the human body. If we remember the main five, right? Pushing, pulling, squatting in terms of squat, knee flexion, knee extension, hinging at the hips, and then that core, that trunk movement. So these are our main categories of lifts. And just like I said, we're going to go through how to progress those main categories of lifts. So first of all, what are we working when we're talking about these categories of lifts? Pushing, obviously, is that upper front of your body, upper front. Pulling, you're using the upper back. I'll put U for upper back. Squatting, we're using the front of our legs, front leg. Hinging, we're going to be using the back portion or the posterior chain. We'll do back leg. And then lastly, core, that's your trunk stability or ability, trunk. So, what does this mean? How does this pertain to training? So we could take a look at our categories here. For instance, we'll start with push. What is the main push exercise? The best lift for push exercise, as we know, is bench press. Okay, so I'm going to put the big main category of our lift right in A, bench press. When we think about knee flexion extension, what's the main movement? Our squat. And then our hinge, what's our main hinge movement? Deadlift. That's why I have that underlined in red, those categories, because those are our main big lifters. These are going to take the squat, bench, and deadlift. That's going to take to be the bread and butter of your program. Whatever you do in terms of athleticism, weight loss, anything, squat, bench, and deadlift we should be doing. Or some modification of that exercise. So that matters first. That's why it's an A category. But we think about push and upper front as a whole. There's a whole list that we could do that pertain to those categories. So in addition to bench press, pushing, we could do dips, right? What do dips train? They train our triceps. Well, we could also branch off into tricep extensions, right? We could also, again, working those front upper muscles and we're pushing. That's an overhead press. And as you see, that's how we got all these categories. And we could keep going, right? There's a whole list of exercises and we can keep going down these lists. And how we break them up is into these categories, just like so, and they form from your main lifts. So again, deadlifts, we're deadlifting, we're using those hips, that posterior chain, right back legs. What else can be done with that? The main movement. RDLs, we've done these. We could also progress the RDL, single leg RDL. Obviously, then we can go into hamstring work like glute sliders, Nordic curls, stuff like that. So really fun stuff here. Again, squatting, same ideas, goes into our lunge, right? We can maybe talk about single leg movements. That lunge, again, we're working that sagittal plane. We can mix it up with the frontal plane, get that lateral lunge. And then we could do, right, all the other accessory movements for our legs, those front upper legs. We could do abductors, adductors, right? Our hip flexors, got our tips here. So we can keep branching off and branching off based on these categories and how they work. But what does this mean? Why does this matter? So, then we go next on to our training templates, right? There's different ways now that we know this mumbo jumbo of mess, we know we really need to get that bench, squat, and deadlift in. What do? Now, here's where we apply a training template. I got a list of just a couple of ideas that are typically common when creating your own exercises, but we'll go through these. So linear is your average idea. Typically, if you see someone in the gym working out, I would say linear is a pretty popular option due to its simplicity. You'll see its simplicity. Again, why would you choose one template over the other? Depending on your time that you have to train, how many days a week you train a week, the equipment you have access to. These are all going to change kind of what idea of template you have. Let's say you have 5 days a week. You could work each body part for that day. So let's say I got a big push day, I could bench Start off with that bench press. Then I could go on a dips, my big movement here. Dips for my big triceps. Then I'll right after that, or I can even superset that tricep extension, right? Big tries for that day. And then we could keep going down through that list. Maybe some lateral shoulder raises, right? Lat shoulder, you get the idea. We could go through that for one body part. Or linear could look like, hey, you know what? I only got one day to train this week. Let's work it all. I'll do my bench, I'll do my deadlift, and then I'm going to squat on this day. I'll squat before I deadlift. Got my squat, and then my deadlift. So what we could do, deadlifts might take a lot out of us. So maybe I'll do RDL if I did one day. So because I don't want to hit those big three on that one day, I know it's going to be fatiguing for me. Look how I just made that split decision. Instead of, hey, I know I need my big three, right? And I know that deadlift is going to be really intense, especially after these big two. So I could just go down a level and boom, still work a useful hip exercise. Then in between, bench, get our no monies, wake up our posterior chain, get that big arc during that bench press. For squat, I'll help that movement out with some X-band walks, get some adductors in there, boom. You see how that works? These can complement one another as well. That's how random can look. Random, just how it sounds, it's random, right? We'll start off with our jumps, then we'll do our bench, band fly, BF, then we'll go right into our squats. We'll do TKEs in between, and then some tib raises too. I haven't done those in a while, but we can see it's a little more random, but there's some sense even though it's random. Pyramid is what we do. So again, we start off with that power, jumps and throws. Then you have your main movement for the day. Let's say it is squat. Squat. With our squats, those X-band walks work really well, so we'll combine, keep doing that. So again, that's our main idea for the day. If we have 3 days a week, so one day will be a bench day, one day will be a squat day, one day will be a deadlift day. I already worked that lower body. I could choose, this is where we have fun with our programming, right? Maybe I'll do push-ups. Maybe I'll do a good hinge. Maybe I'll get a single leg RDL. And I haven't worked my calves in years, so calves, right? Boom, there we go. And as we see, we can diversify our workouts and really build our volume here. What's this bottom portion? Our accessories that can strengthen this quadrant of the triangle. And again, the idea of the triangle, each level facilitates one another. Again, we start off with our power, main movement, everything supplies juicing up that main movement. Now, push-ups don't necessarily juice up that main movement for this day, but in combination with another day, maybe for my bench day, that's when those push-ups will strengthen those benches. 9-block, 12-block systems, typically coaches use that, just a better way to organize their movements and categorizing them. So maybe these will be our power blocks. So we'll do our jumps here, throws here. So be my strength blocks, so squats, those X-band walks here, and so forth. 12-block system, you could have a lot more room, obviously, for those movements and better ways to organize them. Why does this matter, though? Why does this matter? So, why does this matter? Any of our progressions? They matter because when we have students come in, they're like, hey, coach, we squatted today, right? We squatted today. I know throughout the week I'm gonna get my pushes, my pulls, my hinge, I'm gonna get it all. So what do I do when I go in the gym? And I already squatted today. Look at, that's where we go, lunge. There's a billion different lunges we could do, right? We could go forwards, we could go backwards, you could do Bulgarian. Pistol squats are a type of lunge. So you see how we could just break down those line of those progressions and hey, do something different, right? The idea is if our training is a pie, we want to satisfy all of those movements, right? We want to satisfy everything. So we got our squat, we got our bench, we got our deadlift, right? We got our main pieces of our pie, but hey, there's a lot that needs to be filled in. We need to work our power. I talked about the importance of that in class. You should be able to answer that very well at this point. Hey, that bench, you need a lot of supporting muscles to get a bench. You want a good bench? You need those strong tries, right? You need that strong shoulder press, military press, right? Those strong no money's. You want a good squat? Get good at expand walks, abductors, your hip flexors, knee extension and flexion, right? So you can see how over time we can fill in this pie by filling in our progressions, okay? So those are our categories. Then we can apply progressions through expanding the library of exercises that we have to our disposal, categorizing them into our template, a template that works for us. Hey, maybe I got 1 day a week to train, right? I'm a busy guy. Maybe there's some, fathers and mothers out there, they only got 1 day a week. Boom, go ahead, go linear. Or maybe our lifting is something that's more random, or a pyramid, or so forth. So that's how this pertains to us. I'm going to have a document with some questions pertaining to this right here. Maybe being creative. Hey, we already squatted for the day. What else could we do? Just stuff like that, okay? Hope you learned something. Enjoy.